Good morning. By the world's standards, Elvis Presley was a success in every way imaginable. He had fame, he was a rock and roll star, he was a pop star, he was a movie star, he was a sex symbol, he was a handsome guy, he was charming. The guy literally had women throwing themselves at him. He was surrounded by friends and people who adored him. He was wealthy. He had like this Disney-esque mansion with all the toys that go along with it. And he had at his disposal the means to fulfill his every whim, the means to fulfill his every desire and pleasure. And so if anyone ever lived a life about which, a lot of people would say, now that's what life is all about, right? It would have been Elvis Presley. And so it's ironic then that when he died, Elvis Presley was eulogized by his ex-wife Priscilla with these tragic words. Priscilla Presley said this at her ex-husband's funeral. Elvis never came to terms with who he was meant to be or what his purpose in life was. He thought he was here for a reason, maybe to preach, maybe to serve, maybe to save, maybe to care for people, and that agonizing desire was always with him, and he knew he wasn't fulfilling it. And so he would go on stage so he wouldn't have to think about it. Elvis had died at the age of 42. That's a lot younger than 42 used to be. Some of you, 42. He was a severe drug abuser. He was morbidly obese. He was unhealthy, unhappy, and unfulfilled man. Shortly before his death, Presley had confided to his hairdresser, there has to be a purpose. There's got to be a reason why I was chosen to be Elvis Presley. I swear to God, no one knows how lonely I get and how empty I really feel. What a tragic, tragic story. But here's something that I want you to think about. Someday the people who know you best are going to stick your body in a box. They're going to stick that box in the ground, and they're going to kick some dirt over it, and then they're going to go eat some potato salad. That's what they're going to do. And here's what I want you to think about. Between bites of potato salad, what are they going to say about your life? Would it be tragic if they said things like, he never really came to terms with what he was here for. He never really came to terms with what he was meant to be. She led a pretty empty life because she really never discovered what her purpose in life is. Is there anybody here who would want to hear those words being spoken over you at your funeral? No, none of us, of course. Well, the truth is that tragic eulogy, those words of a tragic eulogy, a potato salad testimony, if we could put it that way, those kinds of words aren't reserved for the meteoric collapses of the rich and famous, of an Elvis Presley or a Kurt Cobain or a Heath Ledger or a Corey Monteith. Those words are the tragic eulogies of everyday Joes like you and me, who die having gone through the motions of a life of having never really discovered what our purpose was, what we're here for. And so today we're continuing to explore what the Bible has to say in answer to this fundamental question of life. What on earth am I here for? And so far in our journey, just quickly by way of review, we've seen the first three purposes that God created us for. What the Bible has to say for the first three purposes for our life. And I just want to review these. Let's read these together. First of all, I was created to love God. Let's try that again. I was created to love God. Here at the Vineyard, we call this God-given purpose, grow upward. Growing upward is the first of what we refer to here at the Vineyard as the 4 G's, the 4 essential marks or qualities of all authentic Christ followers. We were created to be growing upward, to be growing in our love relationship with the Lord as the first priority of our lives. So that's the first purpose. Here's the second purpose of our lives. Let's read this together. I was created to love others. So at the Vineyard, we call this grouping together. God created us to discover meaning for our lives and purpose and significance and value in the context of meaningful relational connections with other people. We said it this way, we were formed to be part of God's family. That's the second purpose of our life. Then last week we saw a third purpose. Let's read this together. I was created to become like Christ. Here at the Vineyard, we call this third purpose for our lives growing upward. I guess it's also part of growing upward, because growing upward is both growing upward in our love for the Lord, and growing upward is also growing in our likeness. Our likeness of the character of Jesus. Well, this morning, that's it by way of review. This morning, we're going to look at God's fourth purpose for our lives. We were created to serve God by serving others. So let's read this together. I was created to serve God by serving others. And here at the Vineyard, we call this fourth God-given purpose for our lives giving back. God hardwired us with the need to give back to others. God hardwired us to find the answer to the question, what on earth am I here for? He hardwired us to find the answer to that question in the context of giving back, in serving others. And we've already talked about this truth a little bit from our keynote passage in Ephesians 2:10. Ephesians 2:10 reads, "For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things," that's like service, the good things that he planned for us to do a long time ago. We saw, if you remember, on the very first week of our journey, that the word masterpiece is the original biblical word, poema, which is where we get our English word, what? Poem. We are God's poem. We are God's masterpiece poem. You are a poem. Handwritten by the hand of God. You are God's masterpiece poem. And there are a couple quick implications about serving God, by serving others, that we glean from this truth that we are God's poetry. So first of all, it's necessarily true that serving God, this fourth purpose for our lives, it necessarily means serving others. Okay? If you think, well, I just serve God, but I don't serve others, you can't have it that way. Serving God necessarily means serving other people. Why is that true? Well, like any artist, God creates his art. Like any poet, God creates the poetry of your life. He created you to have an impact on others, right? No artist creates an art, piece of work and then just sticks it in a shelf and really intends for it to have no impact on people's lives, right? Right? God intended for his artistry to have an impact in the lives of others. And so as masterpiece poems, we serve God and we fulfill the purposes of the master poet when we serve others, when we impact others with the poetry and the artistry that the master artist created into the fabric of our lives. And so serving God with the poetry of our lives, serving the master poet with the poetry of our lives necessarily means impacting others with the poetry of our lives. Do you see that? Say, we get it. Okay, good. I needed to hear that. All right, a second implication is this: significance and serving go together. Meaning purpose for our lives, the significance that we're all longing to discover, it's necessarily connected with serving others. And we also touched on this in week 1. It's absolutely impossible for us to know God's answer to our question, what am I here for, It's impossible to know the answer to that question apart from serving other people, because God hardwired us to find meaning and purpose in life by blessing and serving others. We were made to be contributors, not consumers. We were meant to be servants, not spectators. Personal purpose and people go together. You can't have one without the other. Significance and serving go together. We were designed to give back to God by giving ourselves away to others. You know, and I think we all know that to be true from experience. How is it that you feel when you feel like you've got absolutely nothing to offer others? Anybody like that? How is it that we feel when we feel like we've got absolutely nothing? There's nothing there is no thought that's run through my brain. There is no ability that can flow through my hands. There are no words that can come out of my mouth that has any value that will contribute even, the smallest molecule of value to the life of another person. How do we feel if that's how we assess ourselves, right? We feel pretty worthless, right? We feel useless. We feel lifeless, right? That's because we were created to discover significance in serving others and feeling like the contribution of my life makes a difference in people's lives, and the contribution of my life makes, an impact on planet Earth, right? When we know that, when we see that the contribution of our lives is making a difference, we feel good about that, right? We feel significance. We feel useful. We feel valuable. And we feel alive. Like, yes, I did that. Wow, that's so cool. Right? You know that. We know that from experience. Well, here's an analogy. It's an old analogy. It's a comparison between the Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea. Some of you have heard this. Some of you have not heard this before. Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea. They're both bodies of water in the Middle East and Israel, and they're not very far apart from one another. Actually, they're connected to one another. And the Sea of Galilee, this is the Dead Sea you're seeing here. The Sea of Galilee is just teeming with life. It's great fishing. There's just plants growing all around it. It's teeming with life, the Sea of Galilee. But the Dead Sea, in contrast, is, dead. It's dead. There's absolutely nothing that lives in the Dead Sea. There's nothing that can grow in or even around the Dead Sea. There's no life in the Dead Sea. Well, what's the difference between the Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea? Well, the Sea of Galilee is full of life because it takes in, it receives water, it receives life from other sources outside of itself, but also because water and life flow out of the Sea of Galilee. It gives away what it receives. In contrast, the Dead Sea is a dead end. The Dead Sea is a dead end. There's no outflow from the Dead Sea. It just consumes everything that feeds into it. It just takes. Gimme, 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 gimme. And it gives nothing away, with the result that it's a stagnant body of water. It's completely stagnated. It's a lifeless body of water, hence the name, the Dead Sea. All right? So life and meaning and purpose occur in the context of give and take. You see that? Life and meaning and purpose happen in the context of give and take. That's the way God hardwired ecosystems. It's the way God hardwired the universe. And it's the way God hardwired you. And he hardwired me. We find life and meaning and purpose when we give back to God by giving ourselves away to others and receiving from others. Both, not just one. When we just give ourselves away but we don't receive, we dry up. When we just take and don't give away, we stagnate and become lifeless. It's both. Give and take is where we find meaning and purpose and where life is created. But when we consume and take and give nothing away, our lives become dead ends. And Quite frankly, there are a lot of people who are stagnant dead ends. Can I say that? Is it okay? Y'all feel safe with me still? There are a lot of people who are just stagnant dead ends. And not only are other people missing out on the good things that God planned to occur in not only their lives, but in world history. Not only is world history missing out on the good things that Ephesians 2:10 tells us that God planned to happen as a result of the contribution of your life. Not only is that being missed out on if we're stagnant Dead Sea kind of people, but moreover, Dead Sea kind of people are missing out on experiencing God's purpose for their own lives. We miss out on God's purpose when we just take, and we don't give away, and we don't experience, and we don't clarify and discover the contribution that God designed to happen in my life. And we feel useless when we don't give ourselves away. So significance and serving go together. That's the point I'm belaboring. Significance and serving go together. You cannot discover God's answer to your question, what on earth am I here for, apart from serving others. We miss out on seeing the impact of the master poet's poetry than on the lives of other people when we're not serving them with the poetry of our lives. And too many people are just meaninglessly sitting on the shelf of life, collecting dust, awaiting the day, when someone will say between bites of potato salad, he was a nice guy. You realize that's a horrible eulogy. If that's the best they can come up with. Yeah, she was a nice person. What is going to be the potato salad testimony of your life? What is going to be the potato salad testimony of your life? I once knew a man who was part of a church family. You don't know who he is, so don't fret yourself trying to figure out who it is. Okay? You don't know him. Well, this man took it upon himself to, kind of be the self-appointed watchdog of truth. He strained at doctrinal gnats and picked theological fights constantly with the pastor of his church. Well, one day the proverbial straw broke, the camel's back of orthodoxy. And this man stormed out of the church, leaving nothing behind but a scathing email. Well, the pastor of the church, on his part, he took the email to his board and said, "Hey, is there anything to this? Honestly, are we losing track? Are we, what I'm saying? He was just honestly trying to evaluate. Are we off base here? But here's the tragic punchline of this story. The board's initial response to the pastor and to the flame mail was, Who is this guy? Did you hear that? Who is this guy? Don't miss the point. After years of being a part of a church family, the only potato salad testimony that this man left behind with the people of his own church family was, who? Who was this guy? I don't know. He was apparently the self-appointed watchdog of truth. Oh, well, good riddance, brother. I heard he did a lot of howling and barking and biting. Good riddance, brother. This is good potato salad, by the way, right? Happy howling, brother. In Acts 9, we read a very different kind of potato salad testimony. There was a believer in Joppa named Tabitha, that's her Aramaic name, which in Greek is Dorcas. I like the Aramaic better, personally. Tabitha. Sorry to all you ladies named Dorcas. There was a believer in Joppa named Tabitha, And she was always doing kind things for others and helping the poor. And about this time, she became ill and died. And her body was washed for burial and laid in an upstairs room. But the believers had heard that Peter, the apostle Peter, was nearby at Lydda, and so they sent two men to beg him, please come as soon as possible. And so we're told that, next slide. So Peter returned with them, and as soon as he arrived, they took him to the upstairs room, and the room was filled with widows who were weeping. And they were showing him the coats and other clothes that Tabitha had made for them, that Dorcas had made for them. Now there's a potato salad testimony. There's a potato salad testimony. A room full of people who were weeping and who were crying and who were playing show and tell with all the good things that Tabitha was constantly doing for them. And in fact, the poetry of Tabitha's life was so missed by her church family that they had to send for the apostle Peter to pray that Jesus would bring her back. We can't lose Dorcas. We need her back. Jesus, give her back to us. Which did happen, by the way. That's a potato salad testimony. Would you think of Tabitha? We can't go on without Tabitha. We need to get some big gun apostolic faith healer to bring her back. We need Jesus to give us back our little old lady seamstress. That's a potato salad testimony. What's your testimony going to be? Oh, Jesus, weeping, crying, Jesus, we need him back. Who can we get to pray for her to bring her back? Or is it going to be, who? Who was that? What do you want your potato salad testimony to be? We were created to give something back. We were created to serve God by serving others. And we find significance and meaning and purpose in life by serving others. Hey, on a footnote here, we have a Tabitha in this church. Some of you know who she is. You know who you are? You know, and I don't know, I want to say a day will come when people are going to be weeping and crying and playing show and tell with the things that Tabitha sowed for them. And a woman who has a potato salad testimony in this church. That was a freebie. That was a freebie. That was a blessing for somebody. All right, there's one more important biblical truth. There's a bunch, actually. This was only the introduction to this sermon, by the way. I'm actually not even going to get to what I meant to talk about this morning. So the last point of the introduction is this. I will be held accountable for serving God by serving others. This is a sober truth. I will be held accountable for serving God by serving others. And we see this truth all over the New Testament, but in passages like 2 Corinthians 5:10, it says, for we must all stand before Christ to be judged, and we will each receive whatever we deserve for the good or evil we have done in this earthly body. You have to understand that this passage is not talking about, the judgment that is going to separate believers from those who have rejected God. This is not the judgment that's going to determine the eternal destinies, heaven or hell. This is what's called by theologians the Bema Seat judgment, which is going to be the judgment. Did I get that right? Is this the Bema Seat? Now I'm second guessing myself. Okay, Dave, I'm good. All right, this is the Bema Seat judgment. This is the judgment of rewards for believers. And it says, we must all, meaning all followers of Christ, our eternal salvation is not dependent on this. Okay, are you clear on that? Say, understand. Okay, but we're all going to be in for eternity if we believe in Jesus, but we will still stand before Christ to be judged, and we will each receive whatever we deserve for the good things, the good deeds, or the evil we have done in this earthly body. Isn't that sober? I don't like passages like that. They make me uncomfortable. But in other words, this verse is telling us that God himself is going to give us a potato salad evaluation of our lives. God himself. We're going to stand before him. He's going to say, well, what'd you do? What did you do with the life I gave you? What was the contribution of your life? Well, God, here's the thing. You know, if your answer begins like that, you're in trouble. Well, God, here's the thing. I was really busy. Oh, really? Well, God, here's the thing. Here's the thing. See, I didn't really see that you had created me. You didn't create me with anything to offer other people. Oh, really? I didn't know that. It's good potato salad, by the way. Right? All right, God, here's the thing. I tried serving others once, and it didn't really work out. I got kind of burned, you know. Got hurt. Got my feelings hurt. And God, I just don't think you really understand how much it hurts to try to love others and serve them and have them turn around and stab you in the back. You don't think you really get that. Oh, really? Right? Wrong answer. That's not the answer we want to be giving. And this is a hard truth. It's uncomfortable, but I'm just telling it because that's what the Bible says. The Bible tells us that God's potato salad testimony for that kind of person is going to be, you wicked, lazy slave. Or you wicked, lazy servant. You can check it out. It's in there. That's what he's going to say. You wicked, lazy servant. I tell you what, let's take the stuff that I entrusted to this person and take it away from them, and we're going to give it to somebody else for eternity. I'm not making that up. You can check it out. That's a sobering reality. We're going to be held accountable for our service to God that is rendered in service to others. Or there's another potato salad testimony that we can hear God say over our lives. The Bible tells us that God will say to others, that's what you did? Well done! That is awesome! Good job, you faithful servant. You have been faithful with the few things that I gave you. I tell you what, I'm going to put you in charge of a bunch of stuff. I am going to give you more responsibility and authority in heaven. Come share in my happiness. I'm so stoked. Now that's a potato salad testimony. That's a potato salad testimony. Which do you want to be the testimony of your life? I mean, I think we all know what we'd want to hear, right? I think we all know what we want to hear. We want to have God look us square in the eyes and say, awesome job. Well done. You did what I put you on earth to do. You loved me. You loved others. You grew in character to become more like my son Jesus, and you served me by serving others. Well done. Faithful one. So come on in and enjoy eternity and the rewards I've planned for you. So what's the testimony of our lives going to be? Well done, faithful servant, or poorly done? you wicked, lazy servant. And I think it's a no-brainer in case you're uncertain. See, I make no apology in saying to you that serving God by serving others is very important. It's far more important than your job. It is far more important than your hobbies. It's far more important than most of the things that fritter away the hours of this short life that God has given us to serve him. I mean, let's be honest. Most of the things that occupy our time aren't even going to matter tomorrow. Let alone next week, much less next year. And it certainly isn't going to mean diddly squat in eternity. Who won the game? Now, I like watching football, all right? But let's just be honest. Most of the things that we fritter away our lives with aren't going to matter in eternity. We were created to serve God by serving others. But on the other hand, anytime we serve others in the name of Jesus, anything we do in service to Jesus by serving others in his name, no matter how seemingly small, no matter how seemingly insignificant it seems to you, it does matter for eternity. That what seems to you to be a little pebble that you drop into the pond of world history will send ripples into eternity. Everything you do in service to Jesus matters. Everything. In Jesus' book, there is no little service. Jesus said, even if you give out just a little box of juicy juice to a kid, it counts. I think that's how he said it. Jesus said, even if you give away just a cup of hot coffee to somebody in my name, that counts. He said it was cold water, I think. If you give away cold water in my name, that counts. See, we were put here on earth to serve God by serving others in every act of service that we render to Jesus, by rendering to others, no matter how seemingly insignificant it seems, maybe even no matter how unnoticed it goes, it matters eternally. It counts. Tabitha sewed stuff. That counts. Now, here's another story about something that was seemingly small and insignificant that counted eternally. There were two teenage boys who had walked into a church service one day, but they couldn't find a seat, and so they turned around to leave. But an usher in the church caught them, said, "Come on, guys, I'll help you find a seat." Helped them go find a seat, escorted them to the seat. That night, both of those teenage boys gave their lives to Jesus. That's significant. That's cool. One of those boys was named Billy Graham. Does anybody recognize that name? Yeah. Billy Graham has led perhaps tens of millions of people into an eternal, life-changing relationship with Jesus Christ. Who knows the name of the usher? God does. Do you think that usher is going to get a stellar potato salad testimony in heaven? Well done. Look around. It's like, what is this? I just see a huge crowd of people. You are responsible for that. 10 million souls saved. Well done. Whatever his name was. We have no idea the significance, the the eternal significance of the seemingly small acts of service we render unto Jesus by serving others in his name. It's all important. It's all important. So don't mistake small with insignificant. Don't mistake, small with unimportant. Don't mistake anonymous with insignificant. It all matters for eternity. We were created to serve God by serving others. I was created to serve God by serving others. Let's repeat that together. I was created to serve God by serving others. That's the punchline. That's the introduction of the sermon you're not going to hear. Here's an interesting footnote to the life of Elvis Presley. He released, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 million, I wrote it down, albums. No, it couldn't be 250 million albums. What would it be? That's a lot of albums. No wonder the guy did drugs. He was so busy recording. Sold over 250 million. That's what the word I was looking for. It didn't sound right. You know how many Grammys he won? 3. 3 Grammys. And do you know what they were for? Hymns. Worship songs. Worship songs. The only 3 Grammys he won were all for worship songs. The lyrics to one of those Grammy Award-winning songs was this. After the lightning and the thunder, and after the last bell has rung, I want to bow down before Jesus and hear him say, "Well done, my son." And he's my reason for living. He is my King of Kings. I long to be his possession. He is my everything. What's going to be your potato salad testimony? Let's pray. Stand.